I'm Chef Connie Powers. If you'd like to learn how to make an Irish apple cake and feeling a little bit nostalgic, join me today as we tour Kawartha Settlers Village and make this delicious cake. Welcome to our series Farm to Fork. I'm Chef Connie Powers and you're watching Rogers TV. Today I'm taking you to a farm of yesteryear, to the Kawartha Settlers Village in Bobcaygeon, Ontario. We're going to be looking at two farms, the Dugan Farm and the Murphy Farm, and what they brought to the Kawartha Lakes when they settled here from Ireland. We met up with Robin Barton, the marketing coordinator. We didn't have anyone to interview from the past, so we asked Robin to tell us about the events that are happening currently. Today we're going to be making an Irish apple cake from the Dugan family. Let's get started. We're going to start off by making the bottom part. The cake that's at the bottom is like a sponge cake. We are going to put in half a cup of unsalted softened butter, a half cup of sugar, and 2 eggs. We're going to cream this together and then add in the dry ingredients. So we're going to be using the mixer to cream our sugar, our eggs, and our unsalted butter. They wouldn't have had a stand mixer, but I chose to use it. We're going to get that nice and smooth. In the meantime, we're going to start the streusel topping. So in this bowl, I have got a 1/4 cup of unsalted butter, and we're going to be adding into that let me check. We're going to be adding in a 1/4 cup of oats. We're going to be adding some sugar. Yes, a half a cup of sugar. Now I got to keep an eye on my cake. All right, I'm going to stop that there. Let it sit for a minute, and I'm going to continue with the streusel. I'm going to mix this up. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. And we're back. You're watching Farm to Fork. I'm Chef Connie Powers. Today we're taking you to Kawartha Settlers Village and we're making an Irish apple cake. While you were gone, I completed the streusel topping. You can see it's beautiful, it's fine. We added in about 6 tablespoons of sugar, about 6 tablespoons of butter, a half a cup of sugar, about 3/4 cup of flour, and a 1/4 cup of oats. Now, I did decide that I was going to add a little bit more oats because I just really wanted that oatiness to come through. We're also going to add some cinnamon. The original farm, the Dugan Farm recipe does not call for cinnamon. My own preference is to have a little. You can leave it in, you can take it out. I just want to put a little bit of cinnamon in there to give a little bit more warmth to this. Now, I am curious to see that they did not use brown sugar, which would be our preference, to have brown sugar in a streusel topping. Perhaps it wasn't as available as white granulated sugar, so we're going to stick with that. We're going to set that aside, and we're going to continue with the base of the cake. So in here we've got a half a cup of sugar, some unsalted butter, and 2 eggs. That's where we've left it off. Now we're going to add the dry ingredients. So we're going to add some flour. Remember, don't scoop your flour. Always spoon it into your measuring cup to get an accurate weight. So we want to add 1 1/4 cups of flour to our creamed mixture. This is going to form the base. We're going to be putting this into a 9-inch springform pan. So there's 1 1/4 cups of flour. Now you may think that's not a lot of flour for a cake. Remember, there's 3/4 cup flour in the streusel topping. We'll set our flour aside, and we're going to add in cinnamon, baking powder, and a little bit of salt. The recipe will be at the end. We're going to mix that in. While we're mixing it in, we're going to put in 3 tablespoons of cream. You can smell the cinnamon. My kitchen's a little bit cool, so the butter wasn't as smooth as I wanted it to be, but it'll get smooth. All right, there's our batter. We're going to start chopping the apples. While we're doing that, we're going to take you on the tour of Kawartha Settlers Village. Enjoy this. Hey everybody, welcome to our series Farm to Fork. Today we take you to a farm of the past. We're at Kawartha Settlers Village in downtown Bobcaygeon. Now Bobcaygeon is known, and the Kawartha Lakes is known as a region for a destination as a cottage country for fun in the sun. Today we're going to take you to 2 farms within the Kawartha Settlers Village. It was a popular place for pioneers to Canada. So let's go in, and we're going to show you 2 farms. Now, Kawartha Settlers Village was designed in the 1990s to recreate the village. Only one of the farms here is the original farm. So Kawartha Settlers Village is 9 acres of an original farm, and that is the Murphy farm. Let's go look at both of these farms. So we're in the entranceway of the Kawartha Settlers Village, and we're heading down to the Murphy barn. The Murphy barn is the only original building on the premises. All of these other buildings that you'll see in the video have been brought here to recreate the village. So we're going down to the Murphy barn. What we're walking on right now is the original path through the orchard. We're going to be making an Irish apple cake to take in what the Murphys brought to the Bobcaygeon region. They emigrated here from Ireland, and they bought the farm for $400. The second farm that we're going to be looking at here is another Irish pioneer, and they emigrated from Ireland, and that's the Dugan family. We're going to be seeing their house, but remember, that house was brought here to recreate this village. The Murphy barn is the one that we're headed to right now. We're heading towards the Murphy barn. In its original location. It's the only original building in this village. It's a multi-generational farm in that it was originally purchased by John and Mary Ann Murphy. They then dairy farmed it, and then passed it on to their son, Gerald Murphy, and then his sons, so it would be the grandsons, Roy and Clayton, used it as a dairy farm. The Murphys also owned chickens and pigs. In 1936, there was a tuberculosis outbreak that was traced back to the Murphys' herd. This occurred before the milk was pasteurized, and the Murphys could not afford the equipment needed to pasteurize their milk, resulting in the dairy closing down. A year later, the Crow family started the Kawartha Dairy, Okay, let's head down to the Dugan farmhouse. In 1835, John and Ellen arrived from County Cork, Ireland, and they bought this farm. It was wheat, oats, peas, and some livestock. They had 3 children. The house was sufficient. They bought the house for $400, and they lived there for approximately a decade, and they had 13 children. So they needed to build another house, and they kept the original house for the farm hands. Let's go see the Dugan farmhouse. Now, it's a cold day in April. The village isn't open for the public right now, but it will open in May. And you can go into these houses and you can see this $400 farmhouse housed 3 children and 2 parents. I love this house because it has a great big wood stove, and in the summer season, they actually cook on that wood stove. When we do the cooking for this, we're going to be making a dish called box tea, and it is translated into a poor man's bread, but it's actually a potato pancake. And we thought that it really took in what the Dugans raised and how they lived.
My name is Robin Barton, and I am the marketing coordinator here. So I help promote the village itself as a museum, as a community hub, and of course all of our events that we run annually. We run lots of annual events, including the Kawartha Lakes Festival of Trees, which is our main fundraiser each year. Hundreds of decorated items that we auction off through raffle, silent auction, live auction, and it helps procure our operating costs for the year. Some of our other favorites are the Bobcaygeon Craft Beer and Food Festival. We bring in all sorts of cool food vendors, beer vendors, and people can come for the day and enjoy lots of food and try all sorts of different beers. I decided to kind of work on launching my own business, which I have done, and coming to work here allowed me a little more time and freedom to be able to do that. So tourism season typically here and in the area in general runs from May 1st until about the end of September. That's when we're open for general admission, so people can come and explore the museum, stay for the whole day, have a picnic. It's a really great place to kind of spend a day. We have a huge volunteer base of local individuals who come and help us with everything from, setting up displays around the village, helping to keep it clean and tidy, repairing things when needed, and then of course, hundreds of people who come on board to help with our events annually. The Murphy Barn here is probably one of the main hubs for our events. It's a really great large space where we can do weddings. It's sort of the main hub for our Festival of Trees, and it's also full of some of our most interesting artifacts. There's a dairy display, which is indicative of the barn's roots. It was originally a dairy barn that was very prosperous until about the 1930s, when most local farms struggled to get the mandatory pasteurization equipment that they needed. But prior to that, it was a very successful operation, and it actually is the original structure on this property. So unlike most of the other buildings, which are original buildings, but they were moved here. They were all donated by local families who wanted to see the homes kind of live on through history. And yeah, most of them were moved here by, I believe, Pollard's Moving Company. on big trucks, and it would have been a tricky thing, but they all remain intact. For most of the homes here, they come from families in the area with a long lineage. So absolutely, there are still Duggins and Murphys in the area. We often will have people pop in and note that they were related or they're part of the family. Families in the area who have remained here for years and years and years. Original settlers to the area whose families have continued to live in the area and continue their family lineage in the area. So it's really interesting. The president now is Maureen Lytle. She was our general manager for many years, took a little bit of a step back and then graciously came back to bring all of her knowledge of the village, but in the president role. My favorite events here are probably some of the smaller, I love all our big events. The Festival of Trees is the most beautiful, magical tradition, I think, for most families in the area. Personally, I am really interested in some of the paranormal events that we do here. Annually, we'll have paranormal investigators come in and do, different research and things like that. And I think anyone who has spent an abundance of time here has probably seen or felt something a little. And having the paranormal investigators come in is really fun and interesting, and we keep it light. I think the strangest thing that occurred was, for me personally, was that one day Maureen and I were in our old office, and we suddenly could hear someone yelling, and we looked out the window and saw one of our board members from the Henderson house kind of yelling out the window, and it turns out she had been locked in one of the upstairs rooms with an iron hook from the outside. No, it's kind of a fun way to, I think, honor history, honestly, because it's just interesting to kind of dig into those roots. And so we do public investigations in the summer months. So those go live on our website, usually a little closer to the summer, but people can actually sign up and come do an investigation with a professional group. So one of the most kind of popular spots for the investigations here is the general store. If you're local, you might remember that it was located kind of by the canal originally. There was actually a murder that occurred there in the 90s, so not even that long ago. You can Google it and find lots of information about the murder itself online, but it is said that the gentleman that passed in the store is still in the store. So the investigators that come here have kind of done work to actually try to release him.
And we're back. Wasn't that a great tour? We're in the process of making an Irish apple cake. So I have the batter doing a little something that might be a good chefy trick. Now, when we were sitting in the kitchen doing all of this other work, the batter started to seize up. It started to get a little bit cold, so the butter was solidifying. The cream was cold, and I was having chunks in the batter. So what I've done, you can fill your kitchen sink with hot water, you can fill a basin with hot water, and just put your bowl, or in this case my mixer bowl, into the hot water, and you'll see that we have warmed it, and now the batter is a whole lot better to be able to go into the pan. So that's what I was looking for. You can see now I've got a really nice, smooth, silky batter. So we've taken a 9-inch springform pan. We have greased it a little bit. You can put tallow, lard, Crisco, whatever you would like to use. I'm sure that they've used lard or tallow in it. Into that, we're going to put in our batter. Now remember, this batter is just a simple butter, eggs, sugar, flour, baking powder, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of cinnamon. It's going to look thin, and that's okay. We're adding 2 more layers to this. So we'll put our batter into the bottom of our springform pan. Like that. We're just going to make sure that it's nice and smooth, that it covers the whole base. It's lovely. And we'll continue with the apple portion. So we have 3 apples, and we are just in the process of peeling them. Simple. Okay, we'll clean up the board and we'll continue with building the cake. You're going to be setting your oven at 350, and this will take about 50 minutes to cook. Now, they don't have to be laid in any pattern, but I like to. So you can put them in half circles all the way around. If you want, you can just put them in. Now, the Dugan family recipe did not call for cinnamon in the streusel. I put it in. It didn't call for cinnamon on the apples, and I feel like I want to add just a little sprinkling of cinnamon. You could also add some nutmeg. I'm not sure if nutmeg was in the original Irish recipe. Now, the episode did not allow for us to have the time to make the box tea potato pancakes, but the recipe is going to be at the end, and it's just a pancake that you would make. I make a simpler one. I don't deep fry them, so you'll see that the recipe is like an oat pancake, and you can just make them in a skillet. So we're making it quite thick because when we cut this, the bulk of the deliciousness here is going to be the apples. So I'm laying them in a somewhat pattern so that they'll cook in a layer. So our little sponge cake at the bottom didn't look like much, but you can see where it's going to rise up and it's going to fill up in between those apples. I'm going to add a little bit of cinnamon sugar on the top, and then I'm going to add in the streusel. So I worked this with my hands so that I would get a real nice, warm, crumbly, fine crumbly topping. And there's quite a bit. It's also going to fill in the whole cake. This is delicious served with a vanilla custard. And that recipe is going to be at the end of the episode as well. A nice warm egg custard on top. Make sure that it's even. And there you have it. That's ready for the oven. It is a wonderful dessert, or you can even just have it as a tea cake. I hope you enjoyed our tour of Kawartha Settlers Village today. And try to make this cake. I think it's a warm way to use apples in the wintertime. Until next time, keep cooking.